On Christmas morning, 1847, the snow fell quietly over Willow Creek Plantation, as if the earth itself was trying not to be noticed. No bells rang, no hymns were sung, but somewhere between the frostbitten fields and the slave quarters, a child disappeared. By sundown, the plantation would be ash. No records explain why. No church ledger mentions a fire that large. And yet, for decades afterward, locals refused to step onto that land after dark. They said the ground still smelled like burned pine and wet iron. They said a woman's voice could be heard whispering lullabies where the nursery once stood. This is not a story about revenge. It is a story about ownership, of bodies, of bloodlines, of souls, and about what happens when a system so confident in its power forgets one thing. A mother does not forget the sound of her child breathing. Her name was Eliza May Carter, though the plantation records listed her as E. Carter, age unknown, breeding stock. She had been born on Willow Creek. Her mother died there. Her grandmother died there. 3 generations, never leaving the property, never learning what lay beyond the tree line. Eliza was known for her silence. Not obedience, silence. She listened more than she spoke. She watched the way overseers leaned closer when they lied. She memorized footsteps, learned which floorboards cried out at night. When she gave birth to her son in the winter of 1846, she did not cry out. The child was small, quiet. She named him Samuel, though she never said the name aloud, because names were dangerous. On plantations like Willow Creek, children were not children. They were future assets. And Christmas was not a holy day there. It was accounting season. Every December, Reverend Thomas Whitlock arrived from town. He preached beneath a white steeple stained with age and smoke, reminding the enslaved that suffering was sacred, that obedience was God's design. Behind closed doors, he negotiated. Orphan trains were moving north. Wealthy couples wanted infants. Baptized ones fetched higher prices. The Reverend called it rescue. On Christmas Eve, Samuel was taken from Eliza's arms under the pretense of a blessing. She was told he would return before dawn. Instead, he was wrapped in linen, his name replaced with a number, his mother erased with a signature. At sunrise, the wagon was already miles away. Eliza stood in the cold nursery, her arms still curved around in absence. Witnesses later said she didn't scream. She sat down and listened. That night, Willow Creek slept poorly. Dogs whined. Horses refused their stalls. The wind carried a smell no one could name. Eliza walked the plantation after dark, barefoot in the snow, stopping at places no one remembered showing her. The church cellar, the old storage barn, the records room. She had been quiet her entire life. Now, she was precise. When the first flame rose, it did not roar. It breathed. Fire spread through dry timber, through ledgers, through pews polished by hypocrisy. By the time anyone noticed, the sky was red. Eliza was last seen near the nursery, humming softly. Samuel was never found. Neither was his mother. But the land remembers. And this was only the beginning. By morning, Willow Creek Plantation was no longer a place. It was a wound. Charred beams leaned like broken ribs. Snow melted into blackened mud. The church steeple collapsed inward, as if bowing in shame. 3 white bodies were recovered. 2 overseers. 1 clerk. No enslaved bodies were officially counted. The county ledger recorded the event as accidental fire due to faulty lamps. No inquiry followed, because fires that destroy ledgers tend to end investigations before they begin. Yet something unsettled the town of Briar Hollow. The flames had not spread randomly. They had moved deliberately, records first, then sleeping quarters, then the church. Almost as if guided. Almost as if someone knew exactly where the truth was kept. A week later, Sheriff Amos Pike questioned Martha Bell, the plantation midwife. She had delivered dozens of children at Willow Creek. She had seen babies sold quietly before, but never on Christmas. When asked about Eliza Carter, Martha's hands began to shake. She wasn't angry, Martha whispered. She was empty. The sheriff pressed harder. Had Eliza threatened anyone? Had she spoken of revenge? Martha shook her head. She asked only one thing, she said. Whether fire can remember. The sheriff closed his notebook. That answer could not be filed. In the weeks after the fire, strange patterns emerged. Children in Briar Hollow woke screaming. Different houses. Same dream. They described a woman standing in snow, holding nothing, her arms curved like a cradle. They described a baby crying somewhere far away, never seen, only heard. One child said the woman's mouth was moving, but no sound came out. Another said the woman pointed toward the old plantation ruins and whispered. They wrote him out. Parents blamed grief. Priests blamed imagination. But the dreams continued. Always on Sunday nights. Always after church. Reverend Whitlock survived the fire. Barely. His clothes smelled of smoke long after, and his sermons changed. He stopped speaking of obedience. Started speaking of forgetting. Within a month, the church basement was sealed. No explanation given. Years later, when renovations uncovered a bricked doorway beneath the pulpit, workers found scorched baptismal records, half-burned, names scratched out. One infant's entry remained legible. Not a name, just a date. December 25, 1847. In the late 1840s, orphan trains moved quietly through the northern states. Officially, they carried abandoned children to families who would save them. Unofficially, they carried paperwork, births rewritten, mothers erased, identities sold. Records show that on December 26, 1847, a private rail car departed from Georgia under church supervision. One infant listed. Sex male. Age estimated. Name pending assignment. No origin noted. No mother recorded. The destination ledger ends abruptly, as if the page itself refused to remember. In 1863, a schoolteacher in Ohio reported something strange. A boy named Samuel Whitlock, adopted through church channels, appeared not to age. His height changed little. His voice remained soft. His eyes, witnesses said, looked too old. He refused Christmas celebrations. Each December 25th, he became feverish, whispering a woman's name no one recognized. The family eventually sent him to a church-run seminary. They believed prayer would correct what time had not. The St. Jude Seminary sat far from towns, surrounded by trees that muffled sound. Former students later described a locked archive room beneath the chapel. Inside were baptismal ledgers dating back a century. Some names were crossed out violently. Others were overwritten. One margin note appears repeatedly in different handwriting styles. Mother unrecorded. Origin disputed. In 1871, a fire broke out in the archive room. Only the archive burned. No bodies found. But several students claimed to hear a woman humming beneath the floorboards in the weeks that followed. The seminary dismissed them all. Decades passed. Yet Eliza Carter's name began appearing where it should not. On a 1889 orphanage intake sheet in Pennsylvania. On a hospital death record in Illinois, listed as visitor. On a church donation ledger in New York, signed in a steady hand. Each time, the handwriting differed, but the spelling never did. Local historians called it coincidence. Archivists quietly stopped cataloging those documents. Because names that return after being erased threaten the lie that history is permanent. By the early 1900s, a pattern emerged across 3 states. Certain families, wealthy, church-connected, respected, lost their firstborn sons. Not to illness, not to war, to disappearance. Police reports described open doors, undisturbed rooms, beds still warm. No struggle. Always in December. One mother in Kentucky swore she heard a woman singing outside her son's window the night before he vanished. A lullaby she did not know. Briar Hollow quietly abandoned Christmas traditions. No public trees. No midnight services. Children were told it was old superstition. But elders knew better. Every generation, someone tried to rebuild on the Willow Creek land. Every structure burned within a year. One man claimed he saw footprints in the snow circling the foundation, bare, deliberate, leading nowhere. In 1921, a dying priest left a letter hidden inside a Bible. It admitted what the church had sanctioned. Children were sold to preserve order. Mothers were silenced to maintain peace. Fire, he wrote, was the consequence we earned. The letter ended mid-sentence. The Bible's final pages were scorched. In 1949, a historian cataloging regional disasters noticed something impossible. Every major fire connected to Willow Creek occurred on December 25th. Every report omitted one name. Eliza Carter. He tried to publish his findings. The journal rejected it. The printing press burned that same winter. In 1952, a closed seminary in upstate New York was finally demolished. During excavation, workers uncovered a sealed underground room beneath the chapel. Inside, a child-sized bed, handwritten prayers in multiple scripts, and a single carved name, etched again and again into the stone floor. Samuel. Medical records recovered later described a boy who did not develop normally, not physically, but temporally. Doctors wrote that he spoke as if remembering things that had not happened yet, that he reacted to fire not with fear, but recognition, that every Christmas morning, his pulse slowed, as if waiting. One note ended with a sentence never explained. He is not lost. He is held. Samuel vanished before the seminary closed. No death certificate exists. Modern soil testing at Willow Creek reveals something unusual. The ground retains heat longer than surrounding areas. Ash layers appear where no documented fires occurred. Locals still report sightings. A woman walking the tree line in winter. Barefoot, hands curved gently inward. She never approaches. She never retreats. Those who claim to hear her say the same thing. Not a threat. Not a curse. A question. Do you remember him? After 1955, mentions of Willow Creek disappear entirely. Not because the story ended, but because the institutions that created it learned something. Horror survives best when undocumented. When mothers are unnamed. When children are reassigned. When fires are called accidents. Eliza Carter never received justice. She became something far more dangerous to power than vengeance. She became memory. Every year, without fail, a small fire is reported somewhere along the old orphan train routes. Never large, never fatal, just enough to erase a room, a file, a wall, and somewhere, a child wakes from a dream they do not understand. A woman is singing, and for a moment, just a moment, the lie weakens. Because history does not forgive. It waits.